Hello, today we're going to discuss blood, what blood is made up of and the function it has within the human body. So blood is primarily composed of four main components: red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets and plasma. So blood is a life-sustaining fluid that circulates throughout the human body, delivering essential oxygen and nutrients to cells and removing waste products. The average adult has about 10 to 12 pints, so 5 to 6 litres of blood in their body, which makes up approximately 7 to 8% of their total body weight. So, red blood cells. There are approximately 25 trillion red blood cells in the human body at any given time, and they make up about 40 to 45% of total blood volume. Also in the blood, there are white blood cells, and what they do is they're the body's defense against infections. They can chase bacteria by following chemical signals released by pathogens. And then we also have platelets. Platelets are small cell fragments that play a crucial role in blood clotting when they come into contact with a damaged blood vessel. They release chemicals to stimulate clot formation. So blood is categorized into different blood types based on the presence or absence of specific antigens on the surface of red blood cells. The most common blood types are A, B, AB, and O, each with a positive or negative rhesus factor. So blood's pH. The pH of blood is slightly basic with a normal range between 7.35 and 7.45. Maintaining this pH range is crucial for the body's overall health. So, circulatory system, the body travels through a vast network of blood vessels, covering a distance of approximately 60,000 miles, so 96,560 kilometers within the circulatory system. The human body constantly produces new red blood cells, and red blood cells have a lifespan of about 120 days. Platelets about 8 to 10 days, and white blood cells vary in lifespan from hours to years, depending on the type. Iron is essential for the production of hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells that binds to oxygen. Iron deficiency can lead to anemia and fatigue. So blood volume regulation, the body can adjust blood volume to maintain proper blood pressure and hydration levels. It does this through mechanisms like increasing or decreasing the release of certain hormones. So red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes, are one of the major components of blood and play a vital role in the circulatory system. They are unique cells with specialized features that enable them to transport oxygen from the lungs to body tissue and carry carbon dioxide, a waste product, away from the tissues to be exhaled from the body. So what are their structure? Red blood cells are small, they're biconcave, they're dish-shaped cells without a nucleus. Their unique shape provides a larger surface area for oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange. The absence of a nucleus allows red blood cells to have more space for hemoglobin, the oxygen-carrying protein that gives them their red color. Hemoglobin is the primary functional component of red blood cells and makes up approximately 1/3 of their weight. So the main function of red blood cells is to transport oxygen from the lungs to body tissue. Hemoglobin binds to oxygen in the lungs, forming oxyhemoglobin. When red blood cells reach tissues with lower oxygen levels, oxyhemoglobin releases oxygen to be used by cells for energy production. Red blood cells also play a crucial role in removing carbon dioxide, a waste product from tissues. They transport carbon dioxide back to the lungs where it's exhaled. Red blood cells are continuously produced in the bone marrow. This process is regulated by the hormone EPO, which is released by the kidneys in response to low oxygen levels in the blood. As red blood cells age or become damaged, they are removed from circulation by the spleen and liver, and new red blood cells are produced to replace them. So the lifespan of a red blood cell is typically, in humans, about 120 days. After this period, they become less flexible and more fragile, making them prone to breakages and removal by the spleen. So hemoglobin and iron. Hemoglobin is responsible for red blood cells' ability to bind and transport oxygen. It contains iron, which is essential for its oxygen binding capacity. Iron is obtained from the diet and is carefully regulated in the body to ensure an adequate supply for red blood cell production. Red blood cells are important in diagnosis, so blood tests that measure the number of red blood cells and the amount of hemoglobin in the blood are commonly used in medical diagnosis. So white blood cells are also known as erythrocytes, and they are a crucial component of the immune system and play a pivotal role in protecting the body against infections and foreign invaders. Unlike red blood cells, which primary function is oxygen transport, white blood cells are primarily responsible for the body's defense mechanism. There are different types of white blood cells. So there are neutrophils, and these are the ones that are most abundant within the blood, and they are the first responders to infection. They engulf and destroy bacteria and other pathogens through a process called phagocytosis. Then we have lymphocytes, and they're involved in the adaptive immune response, which includes the production of antibodies and memory cells. There are two main types of lymphocytes. There's the B cells, which produce antibodies that target specific pathogens, facilitating their elimination. And then there's T cells, and they have various functions, including directly attacking infected cells and regulating immune responses. We have monocytes, and these are large white blood cells that can differentiate into macrophages when they enter tissue. Macrophages are phagocytic cells that engulf pathogens, cellular debris, and foreign substances. We have basophils, and they release histamine and other substances that play a role in inflammatory responses and allergies. So the primary function of white blood cells is to defend the body against infection and foreign invaders. They achieve this through various mechanisms. We have phagocytosis, where they engulf and digest bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens. Antibody production. So B cells produce antibodies that neutralize or mark pathogens for destruction by other immune cells. We have cell-mediated immunity, so T cells directly attack infected or abnormal cells, including cancer cells. And then we have immune memory. Lymphocytes, particularly memory B and T cells, remember previous infections, allowing for a faster and more effective immune response upon reinfection. White blood cells produce in the bone marrow, just like red blood cells. The production of white blood cells is regulated by cytokines and growth factors. White blood cells circulate in the bloodstream, but can also move out of the blood vessels and into the tissue, especially when there's an infection or inflammation. This migration allows them to reach the site of infection more effectively. White blood cell counts and differential counts, which is the relative proportion of different types of white blood cells, are essential components of complete blood counts and are routinely measured in blood tests. An abnormal white blood cell count can indicate infections, inflammatory conditions, or certain blood disorders. So we're going to talk about plasma. This is the liquid component of blood, and it makes up approximately 55% of total blood volume. It's a pale yellow fluid that is often described as straw-colored when separated from the cellular components of blood. Plasma is a vital and complex substance with several important functions in the human body. So what is plasma made up of? It is composed of water, so approximately 90%, dissolved solutes and proteins. The major components of plasma include the following. So water, the primary solvent in plasma, which facilitates the transport of substances throughout the human body. It has also got electrolytes. These include ions like sodium, potassium, calcium and chloride, which are essential for maintaining the body's pH, osmotic balance and electrical conductivity. Plasma also contains various proteins. It also contains metabolic waste products such as urea and creatine, and they're carried in the plasma to be transported to the kidneys for excretion. So what is the function or the functions of plasma? So the first one is plasma serves as a medium for transporting various substances throughout the body. This includes the following. So plasma carries nutrients absorbed from the digestive system to cells for energy production and for maintenance. Hormones produced by glands such as the endocrine system are transported in plasma to their target tissues. Metabolic waste products like carbon dioxide and urea are transported from cells to organs of elimination. Osmotic regulation. So plasma and with proteins help maintain osmotic pressure, which is essential for balancing fluid distribution between the blood and the tissues. So immune response. Plasma contains antibodies and proteins that play a crucial role in the body's immune response by identifying and neutralizing pathogens. It also includes fibrogen, which is found in plasma, and this is a critical component in the blood clotting kind of cascade. When activated, it forms a mesh of fiber and fibers to stop bleeding. Plasma helps regulate the body's pH by carrying bicarbonate ions, which can act as a buffer against changes in acidity. So in conclusion, blood is a complex and dynamic fluid that consists of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets and plasma. Its primary function includes transporting oxygen and nutrients, defending against infection, clotting to prevent excess bleeding, regulating the body's processes, and removing waste products. Blood is fundamental to the overall health and proper functioning of the human body.